Hi, everybody. I was not expecting to need to wear short sleeves. And when I say need, I'm not that's not BS. I actually need to wear short sleeves. It's going to be close to 70 tomorrow in the Chicago area. Our average temperature this time of year is 30. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was close to 70 for Christmas. But none of that actually matters right now because you have questions, I have answers. We're going to talk about the best time to go to Europe. One of the most frequent questions I get when people are actually selecting anywhere to travel to, not just Europe, is when is the best time to go there? And Europe is gearing up to have another one of those crazy busy summer travel seasons from the United States. So let's talk about the best time to travel to Europe. Before we get started, however, this is your first time here. Hi. I'm Gretchen, the Tipsy Travel Gal. I'm a licensed esthetician and a travel agent, and it is my goal to eat, drink, and spa my way around the world. Of course, I would love to take you with me, show you some really cool things to do, some absolutely gorgeous things to see, and of course, delicious things to eat and drink. My hope is that that's going to inspire you to travel, whether that be international or domestic. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, please consider hitting that subscribe button to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, in the description of this video, I'm going to include a link to my GoFundMe page. It tells you a little bit about me and how I've gotten to this point. And if you have a couple extra dollars, and I know money is tight for most people, but if you've got a couple extra dollars, I would really appreciate it. And with that, let's just dive right in. Now, just so that you know, I'm talking about the best time to travel with U.S. travelers. And that is going to be an important distinction when we're talking about leaving the United States. So just keep that in mind as we're talking. Now, if you Google when's the best time to travel to Europe, they will say spring and fall. And I agree with that, with exceptions, and we'll get to that in a moment. But I thought we would talk about some of the pros and cons for traveling in the different seasons of the year. Now let's start with everybody's favorite season, summer, which traditionally runs June through August in the United States. It is the warmest time to be in Europe, of course, whether you're in the northern part of Europe or you're along the Mediterranean coast. Obviously, more people travel from the United States at this time of year because the kids are all out of school, and of course, it's also wedding season. There are some attractions that are only open in the summer. For example, if you want to drive Glossglockner Road in Austria, you can only do that in the summer months because it is snowed in the winter months. And actually, in general, if you want to drive across Europe, you want to do that in the summer. There's this tiny, teeny little mountain range called the Alps. I don't know if you've heard of it. And yeah, it can be really hard to traverse that in the winter months. Summer is the busiest season of Europe, which means it is more expensive to go there. And sometimes the things that you want to do are limited in availability. They only sell so many tickets a day to get into the Anne Frank Museum. They only sell so many tickets a day to go into the Vatican Museums. They only sell so many tickets a day to go up in the Eiffel Tower. So what I'm saying is this. If you're planning a trip to Europe in the summer, you're going to need to get on it and book those things super fast. Because if you don't, you might not get tickets to some of the things that you really, really want to see. Some people like to kind of come and go and blow with the wind. I actually am one of those travelers. However, there's something that you want to do, you have to book it in advance. You really don't have many choices in the summer. Now, for the things that you don't need tickets for, of course, the lines are going to be longer. Europe itself is not overly hot in the summer. We'll pick a country like France. France really doesn't get much warmer than the mid 70s, lower 80s, but it can occasionally spike in temperature. However, it is miserably humid during those months. So, 80 degrees and 100% humidity could make for an unfun day when you're standing in line outside to go into the Louvre. I was in Rome for New Year's Eve. It was in the 70s. I climbed the dome of St. Peter's Basilica, almost died doing it. And I remember when I was up at the top of that thing going, I can't imagine what it would be like to do this in the summer when the temperature is probably 10 to 20 degrees warmer. So keep those things in mind. You will be hot. It's going to be crowded. And when people are hot and they're crowded, people are stinky. So keep that in mind as well. Now let's move to one of my favorite times to travel to Europe, which is the spring, traditionally from March to May. Usually in the spring, it is slightly cheaper to travel to Europe. There's also a lot more availability and not nearly as many people. And when I say not as many people, I'm talking about United States travelers because they flood Europe in the summer and not many people are coming there during the school year. Now, there are exceptions like special events that might happen. Also, prime US vacation time like spring break. Last year, it was cheaper to go to Europe for spring break than it was the Caribbean, Mexico, or the southern United States. So just know that if you're trying to travel in those time periods, prices will be elevated, possibly even to summer levels this year. Now, one of my favorite reasons to go in the spring is because A, it's not super warm or humid yet, and B, the flowers are beginning to bloom. They usually start to bloom in the beginning of March, so by the time you get there in April and May, they are in full bloom and it is gorgeous. Now, let's talk about the downside of traveling in the spring. It's not going to be hot. In fact, it might even be cold, especially if you're going like in March. More than likely, however, you're probably going to encounter some rain. Remember, April showers, they come your way to grow the flowers that bloom in May. Now, it's not going to be like torrential downpours, and it's probably not going to be like rainy season in the tropics. However, you might encounter some rain while you're walking about, and the temperatures aren't elevated. It could be a little bit on the cool and damp side when that happens. But one of the more important things is winter storms in March are real. And you might not be able to get out of your home location. That has actually happened to me before. So it's something to think about when you are dealing, especially in the beginning spring months. Now let's move to fall. Fall, traditionally September through November, is one of my favorite times of year. And again, traveling to Europe during this time frame is going to be cheaper and there's going to be some more availability, especially in early fall because the kids have all been sent back to school. Parents don't have a lot of cash because they just had to buy the kids all new school clothes and school supplies. So there won't be nearly as many US tourists in Europe at that time as there is in the spring and the summer. Now, there are exceptions to that. For example, Oktoberfest, which usually starts in mid-September. So, if you're planning on something like that, those rules, that doesn't apply because it's going to be busy in Germany for Oktoberfest. Another benefit, the leaves are starting to change. And if you've never been in a mountainous forest area for fall, I highly recommend you do that because it is stunning when the leaves change. Now, the cons. Frankly, I never know how to dress in the fall. You're planning for cooler temperatures and then all of a sudden you have like 3 or 4 90-degree days that just kind of like pop out of nowhere. I like to do layers, but that just means I have to pack more luggage, which I never care to do. Typically, when seasons change, the winds shift. So when you're heading out of winter into spring, the winds will shift, bringing warmer air to the northern hemisphere. When we're going from summer to fall, the winds are shifting and now they're coming from a colder place. You're going to encounter rain, and that could be a cool and damp rain. I've been in Europe in the fall, and it was cold and damp and rainy. Still had a lovely and amazing time. Luckily, I did have a raincoat with me, but yeah, I still caught a cold while I was there. But now we're going to talk in winter in Europe. I have spent several weeks in Europe for the winter, and it was quite lovely. The cold aside, Europe is absolutely gorgeous in the winter. Remember those mountains I was talking about that change colors in the fall? Yeah, they are even more gorgeous, covered in snow. And just like in the summer where there are many attractions that are weather dependent, that also holds true for some winter things like, say, skiing or any winter activities that take place outside. It may or may not be cheaper to go to Europe during the holidays depending upon when you're going. For example, if you're going during the holidays, like when I did, it's not going to be that much cheaper. Although it's not necessarily a destination that Americans will go to Europe for the holidays, there's a whole lot of people in Europe that also go different places for the holidays. So hotels are full, restaurants are full, and everybody's out enjoying the splendor of the holidays. Also, it will be cold and snowing. Now, I will tell you that I wasn't cold like I am here, and I was even in the Arctic Circle for a period of time, But yes, you're going to have to wear hats and gloves and coats and boots because it will be winter there, which means you might have to bring more luggage so that way you can layer. Now, I will also say that it gets warmer the farther south you go. So if you are going to southern Europe, you probably won't have to deal with as many as the issues of cold as you do if you're going to be to the north. So you can keep that in mind, but yes, you're probably going to need to dress in layers and have extra clothes with you for the colder temperatures. Also, there are some things that aren't going to be as fun in colder weather as warmer weather. For example, I went to the Eiffel Tower, which is 948 feet straight up. It wasn't raining that day, but holy crap, were the winds blowing. I can tell you that was a crazy day. I have been up in the Eiffel Tower many times. That time was the craziest because the winds were so strong and cold. You know, you're 80 stories up outside in the winter. It's going to be cold. So those are things to keep in mind. If you want to go do things like that, you may want to wait, either go a little bit earlier or you may want to wait until the spring to do it. If you're heading to Southern Europe, you might not have as many problems with weather affecting your activities. So as I said, my drink is getting low, so I'm glad I'm wrapping this up now. As I said, I happen to agree with the best times going to Europe are the spring and fall. However, I would not go in March. I would try to stick to mid-April through mid-May. Mid-May is when people in the United States are graduating college and starting to get married or going on honeymoons and getting out of school and taking family trips. So I would say if you are looking for cheaper rates and less crowded, mid-April through mid-May. Also, I adore the fall. I would say the month of September and the month of October are probably going to be when you find the cheapest rates and the least amount of people. Keep in mind that people will be doing ecotourism like they do here. You know, everybody heads to the northern East Coast for the leaves changing. Obviously, Germany is going to have Oktoberfest. So yes, my picks for traveling to Europe are mid-April through mid-May, and then the months of September and October. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions or some comments you'd like to make, please go ahead and comment below, or you can reach me on any of my social media accounts. I am Tipsy Travel Gal. Also, my website, tipsytravelgal.com. If you look at the top menu and see the Contact Me page, you go there and there is a link to send me an email. Again, thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, bye.